We're on day 3.5 with a Matt.
3.5. I like
You're not laughing my joke this hard.
I
love that.
I was surprised.
I've known we've been actually I've been with you like almost 24/7, right?
For the past year.
Past 4 days. And every 3 minutes I have you laughing. That makes me look so good. Unbelievable. Anyway, you had a couple of issues that you want to address. Okay. Because basically it's called Matt and Arnold Show.
Yeah.
You hear that, Megan?
Matt and Arnold Show.
Good.
Okay. Oh, Megan's filling. I'm not as pretty, though.
That's okay. That's okay. You have your arm around me.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, Arnold does a lot of videos about raw food and how they cure things, and I wanted to, and like, I guess my contribution now is I don't really like to emphasize the raw food part, because I think raw food is just a very minuscule, diet itself is a very minuscule way of how we nourish ourselves and our lifestyle and stuff, but I love what Arnold does, so I want to like collaborate in that way. But I wanted to talk about,
and actually you came here to be of service to me.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, we're traveling now because we just finished up some service that we were doing in North Carolina.
And that's your job, to be of service.
Yeah, so then we have a kind of a next vision to where we're going, but I thought like coming up here to see some family, and then I just had this urge to
go to Arnold's to wash my floors.
Arnold's doing amazing things all the time, so it's really just humbling, and it's an honor to be able to serve him. But I wanted to talk a little bit about addiction, because we're kind of dealing with there's some things that have come up lately that have been sort of highlighting that aspect. And have you ever had any addiction issues, like overtly addictive things, like drugs, alcohol,
you know what it is?
Smoking?
I never smoked. I never drank. I like women, but I don't do anything with them though.
You just like to look.
I like to look, and that's about as far as it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, any woman's been with me can tell you that. In fact, every woman make a move with me, I run.
Yeah.
So
So you've never really had a lot of vices. See,
I don't have any vices.
I have a pretty. My past is riddled with addiction, but I have a whole different take on addiction. I was just really deep into drugs and alcohol from a really young age.
Right.
But I just wanted to talk about addiction itself. Like people are constantly talking about when they get into raw food, they're addicted to other foods, right? Like they're addicted to the cooked foods, the French fries, and the chocolates and the fried foods and stuff. And we know that there's a chemical cause for that. It's actually creating the same kind of chemical reactions, addictive behavior chemically. It's not just the comfort food aspect, which that's a lot of it, but that's also a lot of how it is with any drug. It's like hiding your emotions, numbing yourself, stuff like that. But like a lot of times we don't talk about the addictions that we have to like everything that we're doing. I mean, all of our attachments to like television, our attachments to clothes, shoes, fame, sex, telephones.
I mean, you go to any restaurant. Yeah. I don't care what restaurant it is. Everybody comes in, put your telephone on the table.
Right. And like anything, basically, for me, an addiction is anything that if it gets taken away from us, it makes us uncomfortable because of suffering. Right. So if like we have something, it's okay to have something, but at any point, if it goes away and it makes you suffer, then that's an attachment. And he's not suffering, so he's okay.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, like even like all these comforts that we have, like. Not just the food, but like just indoor
everything,
eating, indoor plumbing, all these things that
even peer pressure is an addiction.
Yeah, and like fame, like people are doing all these, like people like to do these personas nowadays because like fame is this big thing, and it's all these distractions from like being with ourselves. And today we were talking about how we have to make peace with ourselves if we really want to be happy about it.
You just saw that just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, but like I think that if people are worried about like conquering those food addictions or alcohol addictions or any kind of addiction, you have to look at it in a bigger picture. We can't, like, our society is the one that demonizes certain practices and says these addictions are bad, but they never highlight the addictions that support the economy, basically. So we need to see our lifestyle and see what are we really attached to.
What would your suggestions be?
Well, I think that it's just the first thing to do is take an inventory.
Inventory.
You know, when you have your time of meditation, however you like to meditate, when you take an inventory of your life and think about, what do I really need to be happy?
Right, what I really want.
And if your list just starts to become really long and it starts to be full of stuff that you don't want to participate in or doesn't serve you, that's a big deal. And one of the things, like we know with food and drugs and alcohol, the product of that addiction...
Let's take a look at the other side.
Okay.
You say it doesn't serve you, but you can also, that's your interpretation.
Well, let me expand on that then, because I think that...
That's your interpretation.
Yeah, but I think that it's...
Like, say, for example, we just heard some...
It is subjective to the person.
Who drank a lot, right?
Right.
It did not serve her. Right. The thing is, she had at a certain point where things could be turned around. Or say, for example, you have a job. It hits a certain point, doesn't serve you, so you have to turn around.
Yeah, and that turnaround is when you become conscious that it doesn't serve you, and you start to work, and it could, however long it takes to get through that. Right. But when you see, like, it's a good example with drinking, because you see the effects. There's consequences. Your health suffers. All these things suffer.
Right.
So it's hard to see that when you have addictions to things like societal things, like certain kinds of clothes and the electronics and stuff. Right. It's like, well, who am I really hurting? But there's the way that we are able to afford these things, and the institutions set up to create those processes or those systems, they're causing slave labor. They are
absolutely
working conditions.
Absolutely, you're in a box and you cannot get out. You're in a tightly knit box with all your friends and family, and they all look at you. You gotta do this. You gotta do that. You gotta do everything's a box.
Yeah, and it's like,
oh my gosh, I have to get out of my box.
But it's like people, if they don't like lock into that larger organism that they're a part of, and don't start to really feel the effects that their lifestyle is having on the environment, on brothers and sisters, and on people who are just around the world who are suffering from these things, it's hard for them to see these things as addictions that are actually causing problems. And then when you try to remove those things from your life because you realize what they're doing, and it becomes a sufferable kind of issue, then you see that that's an addiction.
What happens if you don't see it?
Well, if you don't see it, then you're probably not going to watch this video.
Majority of people don't see it.
Well, they're probably not going to watch this video. But there are people who are going to be able to see it.
How about most incentive for them to share this video with others so they say, aha, the aha moment?
Well, the aha moment, I think, is just something that comes internally, whether they watch this video or not. But if they see this video and they start to think, oh, that kind of makes a lot of sense, then they can start taking those steps. And then, like, one person starts to take these steps, and all their friends and family see
inventory.
What are some
one
of those 100 people?
What are some steps?
Well, okay, take the inventory, which is the most important step. Okay. When you start to realize, okay, what do I think I really need? If this got taken out of my life, would it make me uncomfortable? Would it make me suffer?
Right.
If I could only
One second. Take off my socks. Yeah.
And then it's just a matter of, trying to do your best to remove some of the things that are superfluous or that are causing issues that you don't want to participate in. And as you remove them, then you start to be able to look into your
in your life, for example, what's happening in your life? Because you're a prime example. To me, you're a supreme prime example of this lifestyle approach. Get it?
Well, so one of a good example would be. Let's say food. Let's use food because it's a raw food channel.
Right.
When you remove something that you're eating, when you start to have these feelings of cravings, you really have to look beyond the actual craving for the food and think, why am I suffering? What is it doing for me? What is it distracting me from? And really start to look at that. But it's really also important not to be too austere and don't deprive yourself of that thing, because eventually the suffering could be, and it could also just cloud things more, and it could start making you go more off the track. So give yourself that thing if you really need it, but at least allow yourself to see that process unfolding, and you can learn so much from it. And just allow yourself to be conscious, and don't be going from distraction to distraction. Give yourself time to sit down and meditate when you feel stressed out. Don't just go to the very next thing. Don't go to the next superfood or the next support group or the next web page or the next video channel. Just stop and just tune in to yourself.
Take note. They feel like they're in a situation that's contrary to their well-being.
Right.
Stop.
And it's a consumer system, so they feel like if something's wrong, there's something I need. And there's nothing that you need. You need to just stop and get to a point where you can be comfortable with everything that's in your life, and you're conscious of all the things that are in your life and all the things that are supporting you and the institutions that are necessary in your survival and the lifestyle that you have. And until you can really tune into that, there's no point in going so deep down one rabbit hole of lifestyle, like just with diet, just with raw food, and you start to get into the same sort of industrial thing where you just sort of like follow this marketed sort of like covert
and actually raw food is marketed. A lot of raw food.
It mostly is.
A lot of it's marketed.
So a lot of times we're just getting right out of the frying pan to the fire.
One superfood to another superfood to another super drink to another super pill.
Yeah, and we were talking yesterday. Somebody who's cooking food but living off the land is going to have a much calmer and more conducive vibration than somebody who is a totally raw foodist but is eating all these things that are causing a lot of suffering around the world and things like that.
There is a lot of suffering.
Yeah, but we don't have to focus on the suffering and be really negative about it, but it's important to just be conscious of it so we can then change our lives in sort of a karmic path to make all of our actions virtuous so that we don't get involved in this vanity that's just going to make us suffer and be really heavy on us.
Explain your life a little bit.
Where are we at?
Where are we at?
Time we at?
Almost 10.
Almost 10. Wow, I went 10 minutes. Wow.
That's good for that video, then.
Good for that video.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is Life from Arnold's Way with Matt. This is day 3.5. Stay tuned to day 4. Tomorrow I start my 450 free meals. Tomorrow. I'm giving out banana whips with carrots and dates. Matt will be there. Julie will be there. I'll be there. And we just share why you should eat low-fat, raw vegan meal.
Yeah.
As a supreme way of healing.
Yeah.
And don't look at my feet. That's not bad.
Bye.
Bye from Arnold's Way Live. Okay.